Welcome to the Gaming Alchemy channel, everybody. Today we are going to be doing a how to play video for Shadows of Brimstone, Forbidden Fortress in particular today, although these rules apply to all Shadows of Brimstone games. They all play the same. They might just add an extra rule here or there, depending on the core box that you have. But what is this game? So it is a dungeon crawler type game where you're going to be going through a fortress. In this case, the setting is feudal Japan, and you will have a goal you are trying to accomplish, and that is based on whichever mission you are doing in this little adventure book that's going to come with the game. And they are all listed in the front here, and you will just read these out. These are each scenario will be just a little bit different on what kind of goal you're trying to accomplish. Usually it's trying to find these clue tokens on these exploration little tokens that get added to each room as you explore them. But this game is super nice in the way that it's very variable. You can make your own missions very, very easily, and it is quite a lot of fun. And it's got a lot of components, so here are all the minis that I've painted up. There's a ton of tokens, enemy sheets over there. These are the two characters I've been playing with through my playthroughs so far, the soldier and the geisha. And so that's how many items I have collected so far. And we will get on to the first thing you want to do when you start a new game of this, which is to create a new character. And basically you're going to pick a character class. So these are all different classes. This guy's a warrior, this guy's a monk. There's a ton of different characters you can play with. And then after you choose that, you're going to choose your starting items. So I have these set up already. They have starting gear listed right on the backs. And for the samurai warrior, you're given these three starting items. So you have the warrior's katana, you have the samurai armor, and the samurai helmet, which are going to give you all cool benefits. The monk over here, he starts with a monk staff and a sacred bell, and these are specific to certain characters, so you have to have the holy keyword, which he has right there. And then you are going to draw a personal item. So these are random, so you're just going to pick one. So for our monk, we would get the sacred flower, which gives you a little extra ability there. And then for our samurai, we would get +1 max grit. That is awesome. The jagged scar. So then that would be added to your character there. And then you would choose your starting upgrade, which are these guys right here. So they look like this. So these are the three for the samurai, and you get to choose one of these. So each time you play, you're going to be able to make your character just a little bit different based on the personal item you get, based on which of these upgrades you pick. And after that, you're going to get any class-specific cards. So in the samurai's case, he gets these battle tactic cards. And it says that he starts the game with 2 random ones. He gets to pick 3 and choose 2 of them. And this is specific to him. He uses these fury tokens, and then he can spend the fury tokens to do these specific things. And it's all laid out very easily and nicely in the rulebook as to how to set up your character, and explains all their abilities and everything that they can do. So that is creating your character. And really quick, I just wanted to mention too that your characters will also get one of these side bags each, which allows them to hold 5 of these tokens here. and you actually get to start the game with one of those tokens as well. And these are the 4 you get to choose from at the start of the game. You choose one of the 4, and you can choose from tonic, bandages, sake, or a bomb. And there are handy little reference cards like this that will explain what each one does. So the tonic you can use to recover a grit. The fire sake you can discard to immediately gain D3 fury tokens. So I should mention this game deals very heavily with dice. So there is a lot of rolling of dice for almost everything. So if that is something that does not appeal to you, you may not like this game. I personally love it. It's exciting to throw dice and see what happens. And honestly, there's a really good chance that you are going to be able to do the thing you want to do. But obviously, yes, luck is a big factor of that. But I love this game. It's so much fun, especially with painted minis. And I don't know, I just get pulled into the theme so much in this game. But anyway, enough about that. So obviously when you start a new game, you're going to select which characters you are going to play as, and you're going to want to create them. You are going to want to shuffle all the decks in the game, and there are a lot of decks. You're also going to want to shuffle the exploration tokens shown here. And these are going to have different things on them. So every time you explore a new room, like these ones here, not the corridors like this, but only the bigger rooms that aren't corridors, you're going to be placing one of them down every time you explore it. And then at the end of your turn, you're going to reveal what happens and whether there's a clue token or doors, but we'll go into that in more detail in a bit. And then you are also going to prepare the depth track. So this is the depth track here. And every time you explore a room, you're going to be moving this guy this way. At the start of every turn, you have to try to hold back the darkness by rolling, depending on where you are, you need to roll higher than the number shown here. So it gets harder the more you explore deeper into the dungeon, or the fortress in this case. And every time you fail to hold back the darkness, this is going to move down 1 every time. And if you go on one of these blood splatters, you're going to have to draw a darkness card, which are usually always bad. And if you ever go on top of one of these growing dread spots here, these green ones, you're going to have to draw a growing dread card, which gets stacked on top of each other. And at the final objective room, you're going to have to reveal all those growing dread cards. And they're usually not good at all and will suck quite badly. And if you ever roll doubles when you are holding back the darkness, instead of moving the depth track, you are going to roll those dice and you're going to see what happens. Most of the time they're bad, but I know if you roll 6s, it's sometimes not the worst. Like this one here, each hero may immediately heal D6 wounds or sanity or recover 1 grit. KO'd heroes may immediately recover, rolling for injury, madness, and healing 2 D6 wounds or sanity as normal for recovering. So they're not all horrible, but usually they do something kind of nasty to you. Between scenarios, if you're doing the campaign, you are going to get to go to town and visit potentially a bunch of these different buildings, and you will be able to upgrade your weapons, heal yourself. If you had somebody die, you can try to resurrect them, and you have to either stay in the campsite, which is free, but it's a little more dangerous. You might get attacked, or you can pay $10 every night to stay at the inn. And there's also an event chart down here. If you stay in town too long, something bad could happen. So it's pretty thematic, pretty fun, and worth checking out and worth doing. Adds that extra little component to the game, which makes it even more fun. This is the starting entrance tile here. So you're going to place your heroes in any one of these 6 spots, I believe, right there, and you're going to be able to start your journey. And there is also a way to scale the difficulty of this game. There's a nice little chart in here that kind of runs you through, depending on how many heroes you have, determines where you draw from. Because there are a deck of low threats, medium threats, high threats, and epic threats. So obviously the more players you have, you're going to be drawing those higher threat cards. And there's also these things called revive tokens. So if you're only playing with one hero, you get 2 of them, and they look like this. And they do exactly what they say. When your character dies, you can use them to revive yourself. And you only have so many of those. And here are those decks I was talking about. So you got your low threat, medium threat, high threat, epic threat. If you're ever in the other world, so this game has another world on the opposite side of all of these tiles is a completely different world called the belly of the beast. So you're kind of inside of this huge gigantic monster running through it and trying to do specific things. So if you're ever in the belly of the beast, you actually draw different threats. So it kind of changes the game up quite a bit. There's different encounters if you are in the belly of the beast, and you actually have passage encounters as well. And there are map decks for the Forbidden Fortress and for the belly of the beast. Whenever you explore a room, you draw one of those, and that determines the room that you are going to find. And back to the depth track quickly here. One of the characters playing is going to have this old lantern card, and it's a light source. So whoever's holding this card is going to be the one that rolls the dice for the depth track. And how it works is you're going to roll 2d6s, and like I said, you're going to try to get higher than the number depending on where you are in the fortress. So in this case, I rolled an 11, which is higher than 7, so I've successfully held back the darkness. But if I rolled lower than 7, then so 6 or down, then this would move 1 space down and continue doing that. So that's at the start of every round after everyone has taken their turns. That is what you're going to be doing. And if this ever makes it all the way to the fortress entrance here, then the players will also lose the game. And this is the basic flow of the game. You're going to have these 4 phases that you're going to go through every round, and then a new game round will begin. So the first step is hold back the darkness, which I talked about already. You're going to roll the 2 dice on the depth track and see what happens there. Then you are going to activate your models in initiative order. And what that means is that each of your character and the enemies are going to have an initiative value. So the monk here has initiative 4. The Onis have an initiative 3. The Takobake Spearmen have an initiative of 5. So whoever has the highest initiative is going to go first. If you're ever tied with an enemy, they are going to go first. And if any of your heroes are tied, you get to choose who is going to go first. So that is how you determine the order of play on who gets to go first. And what can players do on their turn? Well, the first thing they're going to do is they are going to roll a dice. And depending on what they roll, that is how much movement they are going to get. So in this case, 2. So let's say our soldier moves 2. And that would be his move. If you ever roll a 1, then you actually get a grit, which are these guys here. And they are going to let you re-roll a die. Although you can never re-roll dice for rolling for holding back the darkness. And you could also use a grit to add another die for movement. So if you rolled a 1 and you get this grit, you could choose to use it to add another roll. But if you roll a 1 again, you only get to do that once per turn. So you can't just keep getting grit. If your room has no enemies in it, you can choose to scavenge, which means you get to roll 3 of these D6s, And anytime you roll a 6, you get to scavenge. So I would get to scavenge twice, which means I would get to draw 1 card for each 6 I rolled. So, ooh, this gives me something shiny. So it gives you experience points. So this game uses gold and experience. And if you're playing in a campaign, you actually get to use your experience to level up your character. And you get experience for everything in this game, from hitting enemies to stuff like this on cards, items you find. And so this is going to let you roll a d6. And depending on what you roll, you're going to get something cool. So 1 to 4 is a Darkstone, a 5 is a gear card, and a 6 is an artifact card. So gear and artifact cards are amazing. Like, that is what you want. That's kind of what helps you level up your character in unique ways. So this is an artifact from the other world, the Belly of the Beast. And it, in this case, is a light source, and you can actually sell these between games. If you're doing a campaign, you actually go to town between games and you could sell these items if you want to buy other items. So that is one of the scavenge cards I would get. So I would just note on you kind of need a piece of paper to track all this for each of your characters. And you can choose to pool your experience and gold into one big pool if you want to do it that way. I don't know if that's an official rule, but a lot of guys do that. Or you can keep it separate for your 2 characters or 3 characters, whatever you have, and spend their gold and their experience on just them. And Darkstone, if you roll 1 to 4, you'll get a Darkstone. So you can use Darkstone for many different things in this game. This is what Darkstone is. It's kind of this like enchanted rock meteorite kind of stuff. And you can use it to enchant your items, make them a little bit stronger and upgraded. You can use some of your abilities for your weapons. Will use up Darkstone when you use them to give you more damage and stuff like that. And but it comes at a cost. It can potentially corrupt you. And this is what the corruption looks like. And if you get too much corruption, you might get mutated, which is not always bad. Sometimes your mutations give you good stuff. So that can be kind of neat. And when you go to the town phase between scenarios, you can actually go into town and sell your Darkstone. There's ways to get rid of your corruption if you got too much corruption. You can actually store your Darkstone in town. If you have like a chest or something, you can store it in and go back to it later. So that is what Darkstone is. So this one is much different. It's a hideous discovery. So there's a third of nothing happens, like no events in the scavenge deck. A third of it's going to be bad, like this, and a third of it's going to be something good. So you kind of knowing that going in, then you can kind of determine if you want to scavenge or not. But this still gives you 10 XP, even if it's something bad. But this one makes me take 3 horror hits that do 2 sanity damage each. So that would be down here. So you have health and you have sanity. And this is what you're going to start the game with. So this geisha has 12 sanity and 8 health. And I guess I should kind of go over the rest of this and what this means. So this means here, when you do a melee combat, you get to roll 2 dice. And if you roll 4 or more here, then they will be considered hits. So every dice that was a hit, then you get to roll those dice again and see how much damage they do. So in this case, she starts the game with the ability to roll 2 dice and hitting on 4+. So in this case, this would be a hit. And it's actually a critical hit, because if you ever roll a 6, it's a critical hit, and the enemy does not get to use their defensive value. So you're basically ignoring their shields. So 6s are awesome. But that is not how much damage I rolled. That is just a hit. So now I get to re-roll this again to see how much damage it does. And it does 6 damage, which is amazing. 6 damage that goes through their defenses. So normally every bad guy has a defense value, so he's got a defense value of 2. So in this case, I would ignore it and do him 6 damage to this guy. He only has 3, so I would kill that guy, and then I would get 20 experience points for killing him. This is how many dice they roll against you for each one of these guys. And if they hit, which is in this case a 4+, they would do 2 damage each for each of those hits. So they don't get to roll again. If they hit you, they just automatically do 2 damage for each hit they do in this case. And then each enemy is a little bit different. Each enemy has abilities here that are going to affect them. They have keywords on them as well. And sizes, because some of your weapons will do extra damage depending on what size the enemies are. And there's an elite chart here. If you are, if you want to play a harder game, you can choose to do this elite chart. Or sometimes the darkness cards you encounter will force you to roll one of these, which makes them a little bit harder. And then they all actually have a brutal side. So if you're finding the game just a little too easy, just flip these over, and it makes their stats a little crazier. So now he's got 5 health instead of 3, and then he's doing 4 damage instead of 2, and he's got same amount of defense, but you also get more XP as well. So there is that, but that is an option if you want more of a challenge. And these 2 values up here are the move and the escape. So this is how many spaces they can move on their turn to try to get to you. And escape, this is if you're ever adjacent to an enemy, you're kind of trapped there beside them. So if you want to be able to move on your turn, you roll 1d6, and if it's that number or higher, you can still continue to move on your turn. And any other enemies that have that same value or lower, you'll be able to escape from them as well. And these numbers up here represent kind of your skills and abilities. And when you're going to use these is when the game asks you to do some kind of a test. So it might ask you to do a strength 5 test. And so what that means is your value here is how many dice you get to roll. And when it's asking you to do a test, say strength 5, you have to roll at least 1 5 in order to pass that test. So in this case, I rolled a 5 and a 6, so I passed that test. And that's how it works. The ones where you have low numbers are can be tricky sometimes because you only get to roll 1 dice and you have to roll a certain number. They're usually on the higher side than the lower side. And then you also have your abilities listed here for each character. It's going to tell you how to use your abilities, what you can do. And then this is where it lists your starting items. So he gets the monk staff and the sacred bell, so that's where that's listed. So whenever you have to draw a new room because you are exploring, you're going to draw that, you're going to draw a card from the map deck. And in this case, we got the bell tower. And so what's going to happen is you're going to put one of these exploration tokens onto the map board. And then at the end of everyone's turns, if you still have a character who is on one of these puzzle pieces, so he's technically in both rooms at the same time, then you are going to explore this room and flip this token over and see what it is. And we are going to go over all the different symbols on here to kind of explain what happens when you flip these over. So you'll usually get a door symbol up here. So that means this room has 1 door, and it actually does only have 1 door. Some rooms though will have more than 1 option, like this one here. So you would place it where your character is here. That's where the arrow means there. And then if your exploration token only shows 1 door, but the room you are placing has more than 1 door, you roll dice to see which door is the open one, and then you close the other door off with one of these end caps that look like this. There's one for one side is the belly of the beast, the other side is for the temple or the fortress, and then you would just clip that guy on there to show that that is no longer a door. if you had more than one option. So that is that one. So this one here shows 2 doors. And encounter cards, this one wants you to draw 2 encounter cards. That other one I showed you just wanted you to draw 1 encounter card, and then you would do what it says. Some of them have these little exclamation marks on them. Those are called clues, and usually, like I said, your mission or objective for that particular scenario is to try to find a certain number of exploration tokens with those clues on them. Some of them have a portal on them instead of a door. And so then you would put one of these on there instead of a door, or instead of another room. And then that would be a portal to another world. So in this case, this game comes with the belly of the beast. So you'd be able to transfer yourself or teleport over to the belly of the beast, and then you would start another section over here that would become the belly of the beast, and you could teleport between the two through this portal. And if you own other core sets or other expansions for this game, you might find other worlds than just the belly of the beast. There's the swamps, there's a derelict ship, there's tons. There's a jungle, there's Vikings, Nordic kind of lands and stuff, desert lands. Yeah, it's awesome. There's all sorts of crazy worlds you could end up. Even though you started in this Forbidden Fortress in feudal Japan, you could end up in the Old West or anywhere else. So that's one really, really cool part of this game. And then moving on, this is a growing dread and an encounter and a clue token, and it has 2 doors on it. So you would draw a growing dread card and add it to the stack, which, remember, you reveal all those once you complete your objective or get to your final objective room. And then this one wants you to draw an encounter. And then there's these ones that will attack. So in this case, enemies are going to attack you, which means that you are going to draw one of these cards from the threat deck. Depending on how many players are in the game, you're going to draw from that low, medium, or high threat deck. And you're just going to draw 1. But then you're going to roll for how many come out. So this says you're going to roll a d3 and plus 1. So you're going to roll a d6, and then it's going to act like a d3. So 1 to 2 will be 1, 3 to 4 will be 2, and 5 to 6 will be 3, and then plus 1 more. And in this case, these lanterns, you're going to roll this special yellow dice that has much potentially higher numbers on it. And that is how many are going to come out. So in this case, you'd roll your 1 dice and it's going to act like a d3. So I rolled a 4, so the 2 of these guys plus 1 are going to come out. And sometimes you're going to have a threat card that adds multiple enemies. So you're always going to place them on the board in reverse initiative order, from lowest to highest. So the slowest enemies are always going to be at the back of the group, and you're going to be placing them on the opposite side of where your hero is. And you're going to start in the one corner and skip a space, and that's kind of how they're going to come out. And then if there was more, you would put another one here, and then here, and then here, and then you just kind of keep staggering them that way. Obviously, you can't place them inside the white border areas. And when it is an ambush attack, it's just a little bit different. In that case, they are actually going to be placed directly adjacent to your hero during an ambush attack. And you would place the highest initiative enemies first, and they are going to go completely around you, and then you would do the slowest initiative or the next highest after that. And if you ever run out of spaces adjacent to your character, then you would just move out to the next row and so forth until you had enough room to place them all. And the other thing is, when an enemy ambushes you, they are going to gain +2 initiative during the first turn of that fight. So it kind of changes things up. They're a little more ready to attack you, which is pretty thematic and cool and changes things up a bit. Now we will touch on enemy movement and how they target your heroes. So remember, they have this move value here. So when these guys activate, and they're going to activate fairly quickly because they have initiative 7. These guys actually have the flight ability, so they can actually move through other models and they change targets each turn actually. So normally you can't move through figures or other figures, so we can't move through the enemy figures. They normally can't move through us. And you obviously can't move through these normally, but these guys can because they have flight. And how it works is you're going to start with the enemy that is the closest to one of the heroes. And in this case, there are all actually 4 spaces from the geisha here because you can move diagonally, and these guys can move through this area. So we would get to pick in that case. We are just going to choose this one here, and they always try to move around the target to allow more space for other enemies to come on this side. And then this one is going to target a different random hero, and since we only have one other hero, he is going to move to this side, and he can move 10. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and he can move over top of him because of his flight ability. And then this guy is going to target the one who has the least amount of that type, and now they're tied. So we could probably choose in that case, but we will just move him right there because then he's actually adjacent to both of them in that case. So that's kind of how targeting works. With the larger enemies, like this guy here, he's got a much bigger base. So he will actually push monsters or other enemies out of the way in order to get to their target. So he will essentially push them out of the way and swap places with them in order to reach their target. So that's kind of how they work. They kind of displace them or push them to the side. Sometimes it doesn't work super neatly because of situations like this. So in that case, just move them to the back or whatever. And that is how the large enemies are going to move. And then like I kind of mentioned before, when they attack you, they are going to roll 3 dice each, and each hit, in this case, they only have a melee ability, so each hit that hits a 3 or higher is going to do 2 damage. Okay, and then when they do that, you are going to be able to get to roll your whatever your defense value is on every single hit that was given to you. So if you had 12 hits on you, you get to roll 12 dice. And in her case, she's awesome at defense. For every 3 plus that she rolls, she will block one of those hits from one of these Tengu. And the same thing with sanity. If you ever get sanity hits or horror hits, she has a 4+ value, and works the same way. If you get 10 sanity horror hits, you get to roll 10 dice, and you block all the ones on that are 4 or higher. And then some people actually have armor. So this one here lets you roll after you roll your defense dice, and say you still had 2 or 3 hits left over. Well, with armor, you get to roll again, and any hit or any roll of 6 in this case would block those hits that went through your defense. So armor is really handy and awesome. You want to get armor. And then obviously for every hit that you take that you didn't defend against or your armor didn't stop, you're going to take 1 wound for every hit, and that's going to go on your board. And if you ever hit your max health, then you will get KO'd. And then obviously if they were to knock one of you out on their next activation, then they are just going to do that same targeting thing again. And if there's only 1 target left, well, then they're just going to kind of surround that 1 target. And but if there was other heroes, then they would do the same thing. They would try to space themselves out between all the heroes. And at the end of a fight, Once all the enemies are defeated, there's something called catching your breath. So at the end of that fight, each hero is allowed to heal D3 wounds or D3 sanity or any mix. So basically you get to roll a D6 and divide it by 2, and you can heal that many wounds or sanity. And if the hero actually ends before any hero got to activate or take any actions, they instead get to heal D6 wounds or sanity or any mix or recover a grit. So it's kind of like an extra bonus for that hero because they didn't get to activate in the fight round. And then if anyone was KO'd, like this guy, either from losing all their sanity or losing all their health, you would actually place their token on the board. And then enemies and people can actually walk on top of you, walk on top of your dead body. And then once all the enemies are defeated, you can recover from being KO'd, which means you are going to be able to stand up again and roll 2 D6s and heal any amount of health or sanity of your choosing. And then as a party, you have only so many of these revive tokens. So these are kind of like a special bonus that you can use instead of recovering the normal way. And basically when you use these, you get to fully restore your health and sanity, and you can recover 1 grit. And you do not need to roll on the injury or madness chart when you use revive tokens. So normally when you recover, you need to roll on the injury or madness chart depending on which one caused you to get KO'd. And this is that chart right here. So this is the madness chart. So if madness led you to get KO'd, then you got to roll the dice here, and then something bad's gonna happen. And same thing if you were KO'd from a loss of health. Same thing, you roll 2 D6s, and depending on what the result is, it could be bad, or usually is. And at the end of every fight, you are also going to get to draw loot cards for every enemy type that was defeated. So if you defeated 2 enemy types, you're going to be able to draw 2 of these. So each character gets to do this too. Each character would draw 2 or only 1. In this example here, there was only the Tengus we were fighting, so you'd only draw 1. But each character gets to do that, and you're going to get extra experience points, and in this case, 50 gold. And in this case, this is really awesome, 20 experience points, and you get to draw a gear card or an artifact card if you're in another world, like the Belly of the Beast. And remember also that you're going to get experience points for killing these different enemies. So remember, these ones are going to give you 35 experience for each Tengu you kill. Some of them have something like this where it'll say 10 plus 5. So you get 10 initial experience points for hitting it. And then for every hit, you also get 5 experience points. And same with this. This is kind of a boss figure. And she has 20 health plus 5 health per hero in the fight. And then she's got a ton of abilities as well. And just a quick recap, when you are targeting or making an attack on someone, you are going to get so many dice as shown here. If you're doing a melee attack, so you'd get 2 dice, and you hit on 4 or higher, and then all the ones that you hit on, you get to roll those dice again to see how much damage you do. 6s are always critical, so you ignore their defense. If you ever have a range weapon, like this one here, this is how you determine how many dice you roll. So each weapon will have a certain amount of shots, and that is how many dice you're going to roll. So you're going to get 1 shot with it, and then in the soldier's case, he needs to roll a 3+, so he's a lot better at rolling for range weapons. So a greater than 50% chance of hitting. And yeah, it shows you your range there. And then this particular rifle uses that P dice, or this yellow dice here, for damage +1. And then hits from this gun may not be assigned to enemies adjacent to you. So you just have to be farther away. And there's also hand slots. So you're only allowed to use 2 items with 2 hand slots. So this one uses both of your hands. So this is the only item you'd be able to hold, or weapon you'd be able to hold for that turn. But you can still have other weapons. You just have to choose which one you're using each turn. Because like right now, I've got quite a few weapons on my geisha here, but you have to choose which one you're going to use for that fight, and then you can switch it the next time you fight, or even the next turn, I believe. But that is how the range works. It works the same way. You just determine how many dice on your actual card that shows your weapon. And I will quickly mention too that some weapons will allow you to do a free attack once per turn, and you get to do an automatic wound ignoring defense to an adjacent model, and you can use any time during your move. So this is the one for the geisha. There are other ones in the game that have different abilities and stuff, but just want to make you aware that there are weapons that allow you to do free attacks, which don't count towards your normal attack. So that is pretty fun. And then if you are playing a campaign, if you're going through all the different scenarios in the that come with the adventure book, at the end of each adventure, you are going to recover if any characters got knocked out, and you still have to roll on the injury or madness chart. You are going to fully heal your health and sanity. You are going to remove any status effect markers, resolve any reward failure results of the mission. So sometimes one of the town buildings might get destroyed, or the whole town. You might not even be able to go to town if you don't complete your mission. You're going to have to roll for corruption for all the dark stone you have. You're going to have to make rolls on them to see how corrupted you get. And then, like I said, you may have to get a mutation depending on how corrupted you are. You have to reset your hero's ability tokens if they are heroes that have those, and reset your hero to 1 grit for traveling and town stay. And it explains how the traveling and the going to town works in the rulebook here. Probably not going to go over that in this video, but basically there is a travel chart. First you roll to see if you have a travel hazard, and then you roll on this travel chart, and then you can go to town, and it gives you rules here for the start of your next campaign adventure, and what happens in the death of a hero, if you want to change the difficulty. So yeah, that is the basics to kind of get you going with Shadows of Brimstone. There's obviously much more nuanced rules that you're going to have to reference in the book for certain situations, but that is the basics to kind of keep you going. And there's a nice little reference on the back of the rule book here with all your different items you can get when you throw a bomb, how it works, which I didn't really go over, but you can check that out as well. Basically, the bomb could potentially bounce around a few times before it blows up. And you got a bunch of different symbols there and what they mean. Your game turn, what grit does or how you can use it, and how many threats you're going to be pulling. So that is my basic rules overview for Shadows of Brimstone, particularly Forbidden Fortress, which again can be same rules for the other 2 Old West core sets. And this game has quite a bit to it. I would say you definitely don't need everything that Shadows of Brimstone has to offer. You don't need all the expansions. I have the Forbidden Fortress core box, and I have the one larger expansion, Temple of Shadows, I believe it's called, which added a few more enemies, a few more tiles, a bit more variety. And I would say you're probably going to want that eventually, to have one or more bigger expansions. They also sell these little enemy packs that just have one enemy model in them, and so you can add some more variety to your games. And they are core core box specific if you want. Like these ones here actually go with the one Conquistador set. These ones, I don't actually know which ones these belong to, but anyway, I thought whatever, they'll still work. Every enemy from any other core set will still work with whatever core set you have, so it's not like the end of the world. They might have different keywords that may be slightly different to the core box you're playing with or whatever, but yeah, you may want to get some more variety by adding some extra expansions and enemy packs, but by no means do you need them all. Kind of pick the ones that you like, the themes that you like. I know there's an Egyptian core box coming out that I'm really interested in. It's supposed to be coming out later this year, but I think it was supposed to come out last year too, so I don't know when that one's going to show up, but I will probably most likely be buying that one. And then I would have 2 core boxes with 1 major expansion. And I did actually recently purchase the Derelict Ship, which is another Otherworld, because I wanted to have more Otherworlds to go into potentially when I hit these or find these portal spaces, because it's always kind of fun. That's part of the fun of this game, is like, oh man, where am I going to end up if I go through this portal? And that's exciting, because for every other world you have, you're going to get one of these cards, and you're just going to be randomly drawing one whenever those portals show up and when you go through them. So in this case, I would be going to the mines, which is what the original 2 core box sets were. But then you also have one for this, the Forbidden Fortress, and then you have the Belly of the Beast. And then when I have that Derelict Ship expansion, that would also be in here. And the Derelict expansion, the other side of the tiles are mines, so I could still go to the mines even though I don't have a mines core box. So that is Shadows of Brimstone. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Hopefully my explanation wasn't too horrible, and we will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching, everyone.